The only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2. Vikings.
Welcome back to 612 Vikings. As you guys can see, today we got a special guest on, and we have Nick, aka Grizzy. Nick, if you want to introduce yourself for the people that don't know you quick, and then we'll get right into the episode.
Stop pointing at me. I am Nick, aka Grizzy. I've been on here now. I think this is my third time on. After the first time of coming on, I get a little ban from Dustin. Finally worked my way up to getting back onto the show. And if you guys know, some of you might know, I am big into wrestling. I have a wrestling TikTok page, Grizzy Shoe. So come check that out. That's GRIZZYSHU. Come check that out. And
What did you
pointing
just
at
call
me.
me? All
All
right.
right.
So today we are not going to talk about the Vikings for too much, besides one part of it. But today we're going to go a little more NFL driven, and we are going to rank all NFL coaches, head coaches right now. So we're going to kind of rank them from first to worst, kind of put them in their own bins. You know, we can put a couple coaches in their S tier. We can put a couple coaches in the F tier, whatever we want to do. So, yeah. Let's start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. We have Mr. Todd Bowles. Boys, where do we want to put Todd Bowles in this ranking?
If it were me, I would say he's probably in that like C tier, in my opinion. You know, the Bucks. He's a defensive guy. Bucks defense has been solid, but you can start to see a little bit of a decline. And I feel like for them, they're kind of a team that's kind of stuck in this limbo thing. I think they're very much benefiting from having a weak division. So as I said, he really hasn't done all that much in the playoffs, particularly, and even going back to his Jets days, if you want to include those. But I would say he's probably in the C tier for me. He's just kind of your average coach.
Nick, how were you feeling about Todd Bowles?
Yeah, I was also thinking C tier. He is a Super Bowl winning coach though, but that was as a DC with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, I think I would keep him right in that C tier. I honestly don't think he's like the best coach in the league, but I also don't think he's the worst coach in the league. So I'd keep him right in the middle.
Yeah, if you guys have any arguments, feel free to argue with each other. But I do think that C, maybe on his absolute best day, he could be like a B tier. But other than that, Todd Bowles is what he is. Um,
Mhm.
but moving on, we got the Tennessee head coach, if I can see that correctly, Mike McDonald, right?
No,
Or is that
that's
Callahan?
That's Brian Callahan. Yeah.
Brian Callahan. I always get those two mixed up for
Yeah.
Seattle and Tennessee. But Callahan, where do we want to put Callahan?
Yeah, I think for me, it's kind of unfair to judge right now since he's only in year two. But, you know, he was the worst team in the league last year. He doesn't really have a whole lot of arsenal in his pocket on the offensive side of the ball. There was just you knew it was going to be a project when you took the Tennessee job. So I think for me, I don't want to say he's the worst, like a terrible coach, but given that they were the worst team in the league last year, I think it would have to be fair to put him at number one. Um,
Mhm.
at the number one, was it that F spot right there? At that F spot there. So that's where I would put Brian Callahan for me at least.
Okay. Nick?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd also keep him F. It's kind of hard to judge against that. He only has 1 year under his belt. I'd be happy to see what he could do with Cameron Ward now that he actually has a quarterback that's not making a meme every single week.
Yeah, Will Levis. That's crazy.
Not
Crazy.
as long as he doesn't have Will Levis, I'd like to see what he can do with um Cameron Ward. But as of that first year, I'm gonna go F.
All right, next we got a coach that, you know, all Vikings fans just absolutely love and adore, and that is Butthole Lips, Sean Payton. Sorry, any Saints or Broncos fans out there. That's unfortunately what we have to call him around here in Minnesota, and any Vikings fan. So, Sean Payton, where do we want to put Sean Payton? I know he's had his best years with the Saints, but we're going to kind of going into 2025.
Okay, so if you're basing it off of just going into next year alone, I would say he's probably the B tier, but all time, I would say he's probably more in that A tier. However, it's hard for me to say he's in that S tier just because the fact he did cheat to win that Super Bowl and he didn't know about it and he didn't do anything about it. So I wouldn't put him in that S tier for me personally because of that, just because I feel like it just doesn't take a lot of skill and to be scared of the geriatric quarterbacks and Kurt Warner and Brett Favre. But, that's his whole other issue there. He's got, he got his karma a couple years later. So we're all good in the hood about that. So but for next year though, going with the Broncos, Bo Nix had a very solid year, not anything too bad, not too, not anything great, but not anything so bad where it was a disaster. But I think it's fair to give him that B tier, just how disastrous the Broncos were a couple years ago to where they're at now. I think he's done a good job for that, if I'm being objectively honest with that. So,
Nick, any thoughts?
Yeah, we just don't like this guy, but I'd say all time, I'd say yeah, he's probably hovering around that A tier. I mean, if you're a Saints fan, you're probably putting him in S tier. But I feel like when you're talking S tier, you're talking about Bill Belichick. You're talking about those kinds of head coaches. Even Andy Reid, I think all time probably you could put him in S tier. But for me, Sean Payton, this is just going based off all time. I don't think Sean Payton's on the tier of those guys, but as of right now, I think put him in a B. I think putting him in the B tier is totally fine.
All right. Next, we got the new Bears head coach, former Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. I know there's a lot of hope for Bears fans in Chicago. That's the kind of land that Drew is in right now, just surrounded by Bears fans, and they probably just adore this guy. And there's really not too much to be mad about with Ben Johnson. Very promising right now. That's how we were with Kevin O'Connell. Coming over from the Rams, Super Bowl winning head coach. Obviously, Ben Johnson is not a Super Bowl winning coach right now, but Ben Johnson, how do we feel about Ben Johnson? Where's he going with this Bears team? How are we feeling, Drew?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, or Nick. Nick can go first.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm gonna go based off the potential. I want to put him in C, just based off the potential, but I want to put him behind Todd Bowles. I think that there's obviously not much to go off of. He's only been a coordinator so far, but I think the potential, especially him having Caleb Williams, him having a young offense, actually Keenan Allen's not on the team anymore. I think there's a lot he's going to do with that offense. So just going based off potential, going based off of the 2025-2026 season, I think that he could come in as a C tier head coach, maybe hovering more around the D to C, but I would put him at the back end of C, just based off potential.
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit on the other side of it, where I feel like if we're gonna, we got to keep things consistent for me in my book, because like I said, if we're gonna put Brian Callahan at F, I know he said he had the worst year, for the team, or the worst team in the league last year, but it really wasn't much to work with. So I feel like with Brian Callahan, there still is potential to be really great there. So he definitely knows how to get the quarterback ready, wide receiver ready. O-line still questionable, but I think his dad is also their O-line coach, so he's assembled a pretty good staff there. So I think just for me to be consistent, I would still put him on the F tier just until he proves it. That's kind of how I look at it, just because he hasn't coached a game yet. And if we want, we could put him in the D tier if that's fine, because I'm sure they're not going to be the worst team in the league next year. If you want, you could put him in D, which I'd be fine with as well.
I'll say this is there's a big difference between the two. Is like you said, when you're taking that Tennessee job, you knew it wasn't going to be hard. You're coming into an already pretty decent Chicago team. I think they're going to finish a lot better than the Tennessee Titans did in year one with Callahan.
On paper, it's always that. It's the Bears have won the offseason for the last 15 years and have only had one playoff appearance to show for it. So it's really, two playoff appearances to show for it.
You're coming in with you're coming in with Caleb Williams instead of Will Howard or Will Levis. So it's like,
get it. My point being is like with Caleb Williams hasn't done much either himself. He's exactly what Justin Fields was. It's just he makes more of I kind of look at him right now in that Justin Fields category. He'll put the nice, sexy plays on the highlight reel. Like, look at Justin Fields run an 80-yard touchdown rush, but then he can't throw the ball because he's holding on to it for 15 seconds, even though he has a great O-line. I don't know how much it's going to matter if he doesn't get the ball out quick because he wants to run and create chaos for him to be good. So that's kind of like where I would just put him on that D tier until he proves it for later on. If like I said, I'd be fine with that.
I'm fine with D, until the end of the season, until he starts proving, that he is a good head coach, can make the Bears better than what they were last year. For right now, I think a good compromise between F and C, between you guys, I think D will probably be our best bet. Next, going to Washington, another up-and-coming team, a team that's a little better than the Bears are right now, and that is the Washington Commanders. Just recently came out with some really fire throwbacks, quote-unquote, and that is Dan Quinn, taking this team to the NFC Championship game, taking out the Lions of all teams. So, divisional round, sorry, not championship round. So, Dan Quinn, how do we feel about Mr. Dan Quinn, Mr. Backwards Hat Man?
I think for Dan Quinn, I think he had a really good start to Atlanta, fizzled out and got fired. I think he's a really great coach. We'll see how it looks like with Washington with the retread look and getting a new team and a good general managing structure around him, new ownership. I think he's really, really close at A tier, but I think I want to see one more year before I put him on the A tier just to make sure it's not a. I want to see how Jaden Daniels does with the sophomore year. Just make sure there's no slump like we saw last year with C.J. Stroud or Dak Prescott in 2017 compared to his rookie year. So I think he's like on that A tier. I'm sorry, he's close to that A tier, but I would put him right at that like top B tier, potentially A by the end of the year.
Okay.
I'd put him at B tier above Sean Payton, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
In front of Sean Payton.
Yeah, I do agree with that because he took that Atlanta team to the Super Bowl many years ago now. So, granted, he did blow a 28-3 lead, but he still took that Falcons team, a really good Falcons team, to the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. So, I don't know. I really like the Commanders this year. They're going to be a nice, fun team to watch and kind of root for, too, until they do play the Vikings. So, going into the NFC North, again, we have Mr. Dan Quinn of the Detroit Lions. Like we said before, they got taken out. Did I say Dan Quinn?
Yeah.
Dan Campbell. Jeez, I am horrible in this video.
We got our
Trust me, guys. I know what I'm talking about. I'm just...
Yeah.
I don't know what I am. I need water.
All right, so Drew doesn't get an answer for this one.
Yeah.
No.
No, Dan Campbell. Where do we want to put Dan Campbell?
I'm going to A.
I'll put him in the A tier just because I want to see what he can do without Ben Johnson, without Aaron Glenn. I think he's kind of like in that middle A tier, if you're asking me. He's not a guy who's going to be the tactician guy. He's not going to be an X's and O's guy. He's a very good leader, motivator of a team, which is, another. Yeah, he's the rah-rah guy, which is a big, it's important to be that too. But ideally, you would want a guy that can be both. And I think that there's some other guys who are still up and coming who are a little bit better at both of that versus Dan Campbell. But I think with him, for him to move up into an S tier potentially would have to be a Super Bowl win for Detroit. And I think that's the only thing holding him back. So I would put him in that 8.
Yeah, Nick?
Yeah, I also agree. I think if Detroit has a slump this year without Glenn and Ben Johnson, I think I could potentially see him moving down to B tier. But I think at least of right now, you got to keep him in the A tier.
Yeah, a lot of turnover there too. So the Lions O-line without Frank Ragnow has been proven that they've been very average or even below average of an O-line without Frank Ragnow. So there's some question marks on that interior O-line. I mean, the only two rock solid starters on that Detroit O-line is Taylor Decker, who's starting to get a little older, and obviously Penei Sewell. So it's gonna be interesting to see how Detroit kind of manages things in the coming years when Aiden Hutchinson's due for a contract and Brian Branch is due for a contract. And obviously they just paid Kirby Joseph, but when the St. Brown money kicks in, the Sewell money kicks in, Goff's money kicks in after this year. So he'll be getting paid a boatload of money. So it'll be really interesting to see how Detroit kind of manages their financials going in the next couple of years here.
Oh, yeah. Next, we have the new Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, Mr. Duval. So, where do we want to put Mr. Cringe Liam Cohen?
So
I want to put him in F, by the way.
Hater. I like him a lot as a coordinator. I think he did wonders with Baker Mayfield. He's done. I mean, he's a reason why Will Levis got drafted. He actually was the OC for Kentucky before he went back to the pros, and it was a Rams OC, and then he got poached over to Tampa. So I think he can do a really good job. Maybe the cringe stuff out of it. Maybe he's the we've seen some cringy stuff before on first media day, and obviously the guy we just talked about, Dan Campbell, probably having a very cringy one with the biting the kneecaps, but it turned out it worked out for him. So for right now, I don't think he's as bad as Brian Callahan right now until Callahan kind of gets a little bit of a better roster. But I would say kind of like in that Ben Johnson tier, I'd put him at the D just right after him just until he proves it. But they do have a lot of potential there. I like the moves they make by James Gladstone. They got Travis Hunter. I still have faith that Trevor Lawrence can do what he can do from a couple years ago. They got a good running back room there. Obviously, they're going to have Brian Thomas Jr., so they'll have a good offensive weaponry that they've got there, good arsenal there. So I would put him in the D tier right behind Ben Johnson.
Nick?
Yeah. I totally agree. I think you just put him behind Ben Johnson for right now.
Okay. Well, we'll do that. I think that's pretty fair. He was a pretty good coordinator. We got to see what he does with Mr. Trevor Lawrence. So next, we got the new New York Jets head coach, Mr. Aaron Glenn, former defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. I don't know about you guys, but this is kind of like a weird vibes type guy. Like not necessarily weird vibes, but I guess just, I don't know, kind of mixed bag of like, what are you going to get with the Jets and this being the head coach? What do you guys think?
Yeah. Me personally, I think I would put him. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, Drew. Actually, I really don't care. But I'd probably put him either side by side with Ben Johnson, or I'd even put him behind Aaron Glenn or behind Duval.
So I'm kind of a little bit more down on him. I like that he's a good leader. I think he can be a really good leader. I like former players that become head coaches. I feel like they tend to do or find some sort of success at some level. When they are former players, because they know how the locker room is, they know the day-to-days, so they can relate players to the players a little bit more and look for that wisdom there. But it's really hard for me to ignore how bad the Detroit defenses were. I mean, last year, yes, he had the injuries, but we got to judge it for how it is. It's got to be next man up. And then the year prior to that, they were pretty much there was the same core of guys basically, and they were still one of the worst defenses in the league that year prior. So I'm kind of leaning more in that F tier, but is really close to that D tier, kind of similar to like what Dan Quinn was for that B tier for me.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think given your status with the New York Jets and that whole team, I don't think that they're going to win many games really this year, especially in that division where you got upcoming Patriots team. The Bills are still really good. The Dolphins can be really good. They got a decent roster. So the Jets, it's going to be hard for them to create something out of nothing. So I would be fine with putting him in that probably F tier for right now.
Yeah.
I'd probably put him ahead of, even putting him behind doesn't.
He's still kind of unknown right now, too. So is Ben Johnson, but we're still going into 2025. Next, we got the Arizona head coach.
Murr.
We got Murr from Impractical Jokers as the Arizona head coach. Where do we want to put him?
So for me, Jonathan Gannon, is that who you're referring to? I can't tell.
Murr.
Sorry, the thing's so small I can't really see it, but yeah, for Jonathan Gannon, I kind of look at him like Todd Bowles. He has improved the Arizona team. They're not the bottom feeders of the league anymore, but they're also not a top dog. You do see some sort of improvement. I like some of the picks they got. They got Will Johnson. They got Walter Nolan. I think they had a really, really good draft, so it'll be exciting for them on what they can do. And then you got year 2 of Marvin Harrison Jr. So I like the moves that they're making with Monty Ossenfort, but it's just going to come down to what Gannon can get out of them. So, but for right now, I would probably put them in like that C tier just because it was such a big jump from being a 4-win team to like competing for the NFC West. Obviously fell up short, but I kind of view him in like that average coach. He's just kind of the whatever guy right now, but I could see him going up to a B next year, but I can also see him crashing and burning, going to D or maybe even F if things really go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of this wild
card. Gannon? maybe.
uh, yeah, I haven't watched a lot of the Cardinals, but obviously, yeah, I mean that team on paper didn't look like they'd be like a contender for the NFC West, but obviously they fought to the end. So yeah, I definitely put them in C tier.
All right, next we got the brother of John Harbaugh, Mr. Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Mike Williams, the wide receiver, is retiring, and I think the Chargers training camp started today.
Mhm.
So so Mike Williams had day one of Jim Harbaugh and was like, "Yeah, no, I'm out." So Jim Harbaugh, I think he's a pretty good head coach. Where do you guys want to put him?
I think you got to put him in the A tier. He hasn't won the Super Bowl yet. National champion. He did it at the collegiate level, but he's also been to a Super Bowl, and he really flipped that Chargers organization on its heels when it went from being a really bad or mediocre team to being a AFC West. I don't say contender per se, but a team that is potentially a challenge now for the Chiefs, where it's not just the Chiefs can just steamroll everyone in this division when the Broncos are bad, Chargers were just kind of there, and then the Raiders were for sure bad. So I would say I like Jim Harbaugh more than Dan Campbell if it were me, just because he did the same thing that Dan Campbell has done, and he's also been to a Super Bowl on top of that. So I would personally just flip those two, just because he did flip the 49ers so quick after he got hired, basically in the first year, honestly. So, and that's something that Dan Campbell didn't do in his first year. So I would put him in that A tier, but really close to that S tier. If he can get that Super Bowl, he's for sure in the S tier.
Oh, could you imagine the Chargers winning the Super Bowl? That'd be pretty cool, honestly.
It'd be kind of crazy, yeah.
Next, Saints head coach Kellen Moore. Kind of, I don't really know what to make of Kellen Moore right now. I know he's pretty good with the Cowboys. Uh, I don't know. Mixed bag again for me.
Yeah, I would probably put him in the D tier just because he was a guy. He's been a guy that's been floated around so many times. I kind of like him. I kind of view him the same as Liam Cohen. I don't think he's worse or better. He's just kind of, like I said, he's got to prove it. So, uh, but I do think by the end of the year, I kind of maybe it's kind of similar to the Brian Callahan situation where he's going to go. Saints are not going to be a good team unless Shuck can just figure it out in the NFL and start flinging the ball all over the place. He's rookie of the year or whatever. Then for sure he's one of the league's best head coaches. But I think right now, I think just kind of given the situation, I put him at the D tier. But I think by the end of the year, you could potentially move to F, just kind of given that Brian Callahan treatment.
Mm-hmm. Nick, any thoughts on Kellen Moore?
I mean, it's going to take a miracle for him to make something out of that Saints team. I mean, your starting quarterback's going to be Joe or Shao, whatever the heck his name is. I mean, it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna take an absolute miracle for something to happen. So I think at least going into this year, putting him at D tier isn't crazy to say.
Yeah, another team that is, I guess, on the come up, a little struggling too. Head coach Dave Canales of the Carolina Panthers. Kind of, I don't know if you want to call it turning around Bryce Young from last year, but had a rocky start with him first couple games, and then mid-season got benched, and then last half of the season just kind of started playing a little better. Where do we want to put Dave Canales? I think he needs a little better roster, honestly, for us to really judge what he can do. Right now, he's kind of just a jag, just a guy. Drew, Nick, where do we want to put him?
I think with Canales, I think he was a first-year head coach last year, and I think it's going to be similar to like what Kellen Moore had or what Brian Callahan had. I think that's what you were kind of looking for out of Callahan was we know we're going to suck, but we want to see some sort of like optimism or some sort of flashes we can build off of. It was a rough start. It looked like there was nothing there. It was for sure in the F, but when Bryce Young came back, things started flipping. They started winning more games. I think just with that alone, I would probably put him in the D tier. And I put him probably right in front of Ben Johnson just because Johnson hasn't coached yet. But at least Canales has shown some sort of flash in order that he can be a head coach in this league potentially. So a lot of it's going to be, predicated on what he does this year. Was it just like a little Cinderella run like we saw with the Panthers when they had an interim head coach back with Darnold and DJ Moore in that era? Or is it just going to be a thing where this is what they are. Like, they built off of it, kind of similar to what Dan Campbell did with the Lions. So things could definitely go up or go down. And it's going to fluctuate based on however the Panthers do this year.
Yep. Drew, Nick, you got any thoughts on Dave Canales? I know we don't know too much about him.
Yeah, I don't really know much about him, but I mean,
that's all
the
right.
last couple weeks of the last season, I mean, Panthers kind of turned it around. I don't know how much was him or how much it was just Bryce Young just balling out, but I think he at least is worthy of a D tier.
All right. Next, we got the New York Giants. Kind of a up and down team, more down the last couple of years. The only good season that they had, I guess, quote unquote, good season, was Daniel Jones. The first year that Dable was there, 2022, made Daniel Jones a top paid quarterback for some reason. But that Giants team really is struggling. I would like to see Brian Dable with a competent, well-made team, honestly. I feel like he needs his guys, needs his quarterback, needs his team. What are we thinking of Brian Dable?
It's so odd because he has a playoff win. He's got a coach of the year, but he's on the brink of maybe being fired. Maybe not this year, but a lot of it's going to depend on Jackson Dart and what he brings. And I don't know if Dart's going to play this year. I think if Russ is stinking it up and he's kind of, I don't say reverting back to Denver Russ, but if he goes back to what he's been doing the last couple of years, I think Jackson Dart might get some sniffs at starting this year, potentially. And once you start Jackson Dart, you're on the clock. So, I mean, there's a chance that they may just bench Dart entirely and just kind of buy themselves another year. But with him kind of being on the brink of being fired, I feel like you kind of have to put him in the F tier, which is really strange because he was a coach of the year and he's got a playoff win. But, I mean, that's how fast things can change in the NFL. You got a playoff win a couple years ago, and now you got on the brink of being fired. So things can definitely flip quick in this league. So I put him in F for right now.
Nick, you want to rebuttal that or agree?
It's hard to argue with Drew about anything, to be honest. But I'd still say put him at the back end of D tier. I mean, he's still more, like you said, he has a playoff win. I think Drew's still like a little pissed off that it was against the Vikings, but
Hey, we all are.
I think you could at least put him at the end of D tier.
Well,
I don't think he's on the tier of a coach that just went 4-13.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, though. If it wasn't for us losing that playoff game, we don't get Jordan Addison. We don't get Brian Flores. So there's a little bit of a silver lining out of it. So it could have, maybe it's you take a step back to move forward a little bit, sacrifice a playoff game to have Brian Flores be your DC. So there might have been some, if you want to be on the optimistic side of it, you got that. So.
Do we want to put Brian Dable at the back end of D?
I wish we could sacrifice Drew's voice box for a playoff win.
Jesus. Back end of D? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now we got Mr. KOC.
No, save him till the end.
No, we got KOC. He's next. Mr. Golden Boy. Head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. We got KOC.
I don't care. I'm going S tier. No, I'm just kidding. I would say back end of A tier, in my opinion.
Drew, you want a rebuttal?
I would put him ahead of both of them because on the A tier of Harbaugh and Campbell. The only reason being is Kevin O'Connell does have some sort of award where none of these guys have any sort of individual award. Dan Campbell has not been to a Super Bowl. He hasn't been coach of the year. He hasn't had the career record. And I think if I'm correct, I think Kevin O'Connell has a better career record than Jim Harbaugh, if I'm correct. So I can look at that to verify, but I think he's kind of in that tier. But the reason why I might lean more towards O'Connell is because he does have that coach of the year where the other two don't have, and he is the reigning coach of the year as of right now. So,
Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah. Dustin, let's put. Oh, he's won an award. That means something. But let's put Brian Dable in the F tier, even though he's won a coach of the year. Oh, Dustin, do me a favor and put Brian Dable up to A tier.
Yeah,
he's won a coach. Wait. Sean Payton, has he won a coach of the year?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, let's move Sean Payton up to S tier. We'll move Brian Dable up to A tier, and then everything will be settled. No, I'm going Kevin. I'm Kevin O'Connell at the back of A tier, in my opinion. He has
I
not yet won a playoff game. Neither has Jim Harbaugh, but like you said, actually, technically, Jim Harbaugh has won a playoff game in the NFL. But
Yeah, that's the one thing
uh,
that holds back Kevin O'Connell. But with the reason why I don't put Dan Campbell ahead of Kevin O'Connell is we've yet to it's remained to be seen if Dan Campbell can win with different coordinators, which Kevin O'Connell has already proven he can do. He's won 13 games
here,
with Ed Donatel, who was god awful, had the bottom three defense, still won 13 games, and won that division. And on top of that, he went and he got a different coordinator in Brian Flores, and they've been even better on top of that. So
wait, Dustin,
Yeah.
has Kevin O'Connell ever beaten Dan Campbell?
Ooh, head
yes,
to head.
he has
When?
2022.
Yeah,
Didn't
that is
Dan
true.
Campbell get signed in like 2013 or 2023?
No, he got signed in he was
No.
first year head coach. They finished 9-8 that year. KJ Oz, they got the turnover or whatever it was because Dan Campbell went for it, didn't get it. Vikings got the ball. Kirk Cousins fires it to KJ Osborne down the right side of the field to take the lead right in the final seconds of the game.
Josh Metellus picks it off.
Yep, Mattel off to replace Harrison Hitman Smith.
Yeah, but that's what the first. So he's what 3-1 or 5-1 against Dan Campbell.
That's
Or
great,
Dan
but
Camp.
he's also I think he's one of the most winningest head coaches in NFL history right now too. He's let's see, I had it here.
Played three.
All right, how about this? We'll put Jim Harbaugh first because he's like they both won a Super Bowl, but Jim Harbaugh with the Chargers, Kevin O'Connell second, and then Dan Campbell
Yeah,
next.
'cause right now Jim Harbaugh I would put just ahead of him right now. But if O'Connell gets a playoff win, I'd put him. I would start considering putting him ahead of Harbaugh, just until Harbaugh can do that in the AFC side. But
I mean, I'm just saying Campbell has the playoff win. He's probably gonna win a Coach of the Year eventually. Wait, didn't he win it last year?
no, Kevin O'Connell won it last year.
No, 2 years ago. I mean,
No, Dan Campbell has no Coach of the Year.
well, he's eventually gonna win one, and like I said, he's 5-1 against Kevin O'Connell.
But again, that's not the main thing that you look for. It's who you're playing against the rest of the league. So when it's not a head-to-head thing. It's how are they at coaching at the league. So it's like, are we going to say Matt LaFleur is the worst coach in the NFC North because he's 1-5 in the NFC North last year?
Oh.
So, and like I said, he's got a 6.67 win percentage, which is the right now the second highest in the NFL. So, I'm sorry, but you're wrong on this one. I'll say.
Sorry, you're wrong on this one, Nick.
If you want to live your whole life being biased, that's fine.
All right. Next, we'll move on. We'll move on.
It'll be something the viewers can debate, but I presented.
I'm just saying, yeah, you could say, oh well, he's only good because he hides behind his OC and DC. Well, at this upcoming year, if the Lions take a drop
We'll
off,
see.
then that'll show. But I'm saying, as of right now, I think it would probably be Campbell.
Well, I mean,
if you took 32 NFL fans, one fan from each team, I think they would all say, not all would say Campbell, but I think Campbell would win the vote.
well, they just did that.
I think overall the better like the play caller, better coach is Kevin O'Connell, but I just feel like they're gonna in reality it would be Campbell.
It's pretty simple because to final.
Right, we've been recording for 33 minutes. Come on.
Okay, final thing on it would be.
Oh great!
We've already had the votes on it, which he won Coach of the Year. He beat out Dan Campbell for it. Campbell got second. Kevin O'Connell got first. They already did vote on it, so he got first for that. So if you want to do that, and then on top of that, Dan Campbell doesn't call. He's not X's and O's guy. Kevin O'Connell is, and he's a leader of a locker room, so he does both. Where Dan Campbell's only one side of the coin on that. So next person, we've got.
With that said, we have Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. Kind of a down year last year. Not a lot of things went his way. A lot of injuries, everything like that. Traded Deebo Samuel to the Commanders. I almost said the R word with that one. But yeah, the red. You know what.
Yep.
Kyle Shanahan, where do we want to put Mr. Kyle?
I don't want to look at Drew's face anymore.
So I would probably put him in the A tier just because he has been to 2 Super Bowls. He's been to one as a coordinator. I mean, he had it one, just can't get out of his own way in the last 3 that he's been to. But I would put him in the A tier right now. Uh, I think the only thing holding him back is that Super Bowl win, and he's just I don't know if he'll get it now because Brock Purdy being paid all this money. Um, but it's a kind of a wait and see. So we'll see how things look without Debo and IU kind of being in and out, and potentially Jawan Jennings being out too. So it'll be interesting to see what this Niners offense is going to look like, because it's going to have to be player development and building that roster up again with an expensive quarterback.
Nick, I know you're a big Niners fan. What do you think?
I'd put him at the front of A tier.
At the front of A tier? Well, that's where he is.
All right, keep
So-
him there. Let's go. Come on.
All right.
Keep-
Next one, we got Matt LaFleur of
F.
F of the Green Bay Packers.
I'd go back of A tier.
Honestly, between B and A, I think more towards the back of A, honestly. But what do you guys think?
I have him behind Dan Campbell, but I think the thing that I want to see more out of Matt LaFleur, I think it's kind of the opposite of Dan Campbell, where Dan Campbell, I mean, he's got some understanding of an X's and O. Is that a specialty? No. But Matt LaFleur, I don't know how well he can lead a locker room, because like how many times have we seen they're a very highly penalized team. Like the one thing that comes to my mind was the very last week of the season, where's that Lions-Packers game. Quay Walker pushes a trainer right after, a week or two after one had just saved his life. That comes down to coaching. Like, you can't control your emotions. You have this young team that you've really built up, but I have some questions on his leadership. I think he's a brilliant X's and O's guy. He can definitely coach people. We've seen that with Jordan Love, who was super duper raw coming in, and now he's been, a fairly solid quarterback in the league. And I think that's a lot of credit to Matt LaFleur. So I kind of want to see him do a little bit more, but I would say he's in that A tier just because he does win so many games, and he's been to NFC title games. So I'll put him in the A tier behind Dan Campbell.
Nick?
Oh yeah, I already said back.
Okay.
Back.
All right, next we have Mike McDaniel of the Miami Dolphins. Kind of another up and down team. I did see that when he has Tua starting games, he has, a really good winning record when Tua is healthy and he plays. So as long as Tua is healthy, I mean, the sky's the limit for them. As long as you have Tyreek Hill, another good wide receiver, a lot of good things can happen, but you can't be concussed. You can't not be available as far as Tua goes. But Mike McDaniel, what do we guys think? You got to also make it past December playing outside in the cold. If you can't win a game when it's under 40 degrees, like, come on, man, what are we doing?
Yeah, so I think with Mike McDaniel, in my opinion, when I look at him, I would probably put him in the C tier. I think he's got a fairly good mind when it comes to the X's and O's. He's, done fairly well. He inherited that Brian Flores roster that was kind of stuck in mediocrity, and, helped him win a couple more games. But with Mike McDaniel, my big thing is it's kind of not as bad as LaFleur, but the leadership thing is like the big thing that I'm wondering about. I'm kind of wondering, can he be a mature coach and be a leader of men and not always want to be buddy. And his locker room management, I think, is just a big question, because there's been a lot of players who've been talking a lot of crap about Mike McDaniel after they've kind of left, and some things are kind of being said about him. So I just kind of have some questions about that. And a lot of people seem to be happier when they leave Miami versus when they're there, even though they have like the best facilities. They got this and this, but I think a lot of it is just because Mike McDaniel wants to be more of your friend than your coach. So, but like I said, he's a really good football mind, can run the X's and O's. I would put him in the C tier just because he is winning, but he's been kind of stuck in this mediocrity. But
yeah, I'd probably put him in between Todd Bowles and Gannon, just because Todd Bowles, he's doing a little better with a Buccaneers team, a really good Buccaneers team, whereas Mike McDaniel, he can't, like I said, win in anything under 40-degree weather. So, kind of go from there. Next we have Nick's second favorite team, actually, and that is the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott. Another guy that, if he doesn't perform in the playoffs with the Buffalo Bills, that, they have a really good team. Is he on the hot seat? And what could his future look like after this season? So, Sean McDermott, what do we think of him?
I honestly, I love him as a head coach. I think if the Bills were to fire him, I think that'd be a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I think it's just tough because it's so tough to beat Kansas City, and it's not a thing where it's, I know the Bengals right now are the only team to knock down Kansas City since Mahomes has become the starting quarterback to eliminate them from the playoffs in the AFC side of the bracket. So the fact that only one team has done it in the last 7 years, it'd be a little bit of a different story for me if like the Ravens had beat them and then the Bengals had beat them, and it's like, okay, well, we just can't get past this team. But the fact that nobody's getting past this team except for one random time, I would put him in that A tier. I would honestly lean him right. I'm debating whether he should be before or after Dan Campbell, but kind of like in that range between those two there. Just because he's been doing it a lot longer. He's been to 4 AFC title games, or it seems like he's been there a lot.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he's been to a lot.
Nick?
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's just. I kind of like you say all the time is the AFC. They're kind of like the AFC's Vikings. So I kind of do kind of compare him and Kevin O'Connell a lot. So I think them together would be a cute couple.
Jesus. All right. Next one. We'll kind of speed through the next couple here. Next we got Mike McDonald, the
Another
right guy.
It's his. That was just his first year, right? This would be going into his second year.
Yeah, this is his second year.
He did pretty good with Geno Smith. Obviously, now he gets the GOAT, Sam Darnold. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what he does with pretty much a whole new offense. Obviously, now you got Cooper Kupp. No longer have DK Metcalf. You have JSN still. So I'd probably say either the front of D or the back end of C.
Drew?
Mike, I'm going to be on the completely opposite. I think Mike McDonald is a really good head coach. He was kind of this, I want to say he was coach of the year, but he was kind of like how Sam Darnold was for MVP. Like, he's an honorable mention, but he's not like a serious contender for it. But he took a bottom 10 Seahawks defense 1 year, flipped them over on its heels, and took them to being a fringe top 10 defense. And it says here they were 11th in scoring. The fact that they just a total 180 on how things were expected to go. Like a lot of people thought, oh, Pete Carroll leaves, now they're going to start losing, and really wasn't the case. And that defense really took a big step forward, which and it was a really competitive NFC West. So and for me, I would put him in the B tier. I really like Mike McDonald. I think things are looking in the right direction for him. I think it's just going to fall on, is Sam Darnold, can he build off of that Sam Darnold year, or is it just kind of a flash in the pan year? So, but for me, I'd put him in the B tier going into next year.
Yeah, I think going into this next year, I think front of C, back of B would probably be pretty respectable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like I do like this Seahawks team a lot going into this year, so I'll probably put him on the back end of B. I do want to see a little bit more from them in the Seahawks team. I know they made or pushing to make the playoffs this year. So, you still got the Rams. The Niners are still going to be competitive. And then the Cardinals, who knows what they're going to be this year. So a pretty decent division. I mean, it's going to be up for grabs to see who wins the NFC West. But another guy that's a part of the NFC West and is usually at the top or at least second place and beat the Vikings in the 2024 NFL playoffs. That is Sean McVay, on the verge of retiring, of what he's kind of said. I hope he doesn't. He's still one of the youngest head coaches in the NFL at the moment. Where do we want to put Sean McVay? S, A?
I think you got to put him in the S. He's got the Super Bowl win. He's been to the Super Bowl twice with two different quarterbacks. I think it's very clear he's in the S tier.
Okay, yeah. Our first S tier quarterback, Nick?
I mean, when I think of S tier, I think of like just the best of the best. So I mean, I guess you could put multiple people in S tier, but obviously when I think of S tier, I'm thinking of Andy Reid as like someone just by themselves, like the honest, like best in the league. But yeah, I mean, either that or you put him at the front of A, in my opinion. But I think he is worthy of an S tier if you're not just like making the S tier just one specific person.
I mean, that Rams team isn't like a loaded team by any means. I mean, you got an aging Matthew Stafford. You have aging Devonta Adams too. So we'll see how that goes. But that defense, I think, is pretty underrated in itself. So the fact that Sean McVay can get them to the playoffs and play a couple games there and be competitive with, I think it was the Eagles that they played in the second round. So with that said, I think he belongs pretty much in the S tier, front of A as well. So next, new head coach, new vibes for the New England Patriots, and that is Mike Vrabel, former head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Didn't really work out in Tennessee. Hopefully it works out better in New England with Drake May and company. You got Stephon Diggs to throw to. You got a pretty decent offense. I mean, pretty gimmicky if you ask me, but I kind of like where this Patriots team is heading. Drew?
Yeah, I would say Mike Vrabel for me. I would put him in the B tier. He was the number one seed in the AFC. Granted, it was a very weak AFC at that time, but he was the number one seed. Took him to the AFC title game with AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. So makes your job a little bit easier there. But he's had fairly good defenses when he was the head coach at Tennessee. So for me, I would put him at the B tier. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he also has that Coach of the Year under his belt too. So that's something that you gotta remember with that. But he hasn't
was
been.
That 2019? He won that.
Yeah, but like he was one of the Coach of the Year. You don't want to have it be the end all be all, but usually guys you can just tell that there's two different categories of like, yeah, they deserve it, or okay, they just got it because of a fluke year, like your Leslie Frazier's or your Bill Belichick's, like those kind of guys. Like there's a line to it, and I think he's more on he's a good coach and he got the best out of his players. So I like Mike Vrabel. I think I would put him in that B tier, and I just like that fit with him being a former player there too. So B for me.
Yeah. The next two, I'm going to kind of not group them together, but kind of talk about them together, and we can kind of put them wherever. Shane Steichen of the Indianapolis Colts and D'Amico Ryans of the Houston Texans. The Colts, I don't expect them to even flirt with the playoffs this year. Pretty good AFC South division in general. I mean, it not that it's good. It's just kind of hard to win that division right now. You got scrappy Jaguars. You got the Texans, which are a good team. So the Colts, if they can flirt around with that second, third place, that'd be fine with them. I think that's a good step in the right direction. And then the Houston Texans, kind of a down year last year. CJ Stroud, not doing the best, but hopefully they can take another step forward this year, and CJ Stroud can get back to himself. So what do we think about these two?
Regarding Shane Steichen, I would probably put him ahead of Todd Bowles. I would put him in the C tier. He's not the one that, I don't think he's the guy that's like, oh yeah, he's at fault for drafting Anthony Richardson. But I mean, I knew that was not going to be a good draft pick from the start. Like his no accuracy. He's just a big body who can run around. Just a one-trick pony kind of quarterback, which we've seen doesn't really work out a lot of times. You got to have more of the other intangibles, which we didn't see. But with that being said, though, he's been kind of hovering around 500, which this team right now, I would say with the Colts, well, not right now, but in years past, that was a team that should have been picking in the top 5 of consistently, with having Anthony Richardson be your quarterback, got the best out of Gardner Minshew, got him paid, and really sticking around in this league. I mean, he won 8 games with Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson at quarterback. So, and I think if I remember correctly, I think they were like kind of average in scoring, but they're also, I think, top 10-ish in scoring the year prior with Minshew. So I feel like he gets the best out of his guys with a really bad roster. So I'd put him at that C tier for me.
Okay. Nick?
Yeah, we going to D'Amico Ryan now?
Shane Steichen and D'Amico.
Oh, Steichen. I don't watch the Colts.
Yeah, really.
Shane Steichen, I mean, I guess he could flirt around the C tier,
Okay.
but I'd probably put him more like to the end of the C tier. I don't think
Okay.
he's really better than any of the other three head coaches in the C tier.
Okay. D'Amico.
D'Amico Ryan, probably either the front,
Ryans.
whatever, probably either the front of C tier or probably towards the end of B tier, in my opinion. I mean, he kind of lucked out, got a really good rookie quarterback, and not only that, went in and destroyed a team in the wild card.
Mhm.
I kind
I'd
of
probably
like him
put
in
him
the
at
middle B.
Yeah, that's where I would have him, as like the middle B. CJ Stroud, even with the sophomore slump, he basically I think had around the same record as last year. Just didn't have the playoff success like he did that year prior, but I think he's a good defensive guy. He was basically the second place guy for the Vikings when we were looking for our head coaching cycle. He pulled out and made our decision a lot easier for Kevin O'Connell, but
sure not pulled out.
um,
All
but yeah,
right. Yeah.
that Texans team around. They were the second worst team, or probably the worst team that when they took the job, in 1 year totally turned it around and took them to a playoff win too. So kind of similar to what Dan Quinn's done in Washington. So I would put him in that B tier.
All right. Next two, we got a part of the NFC East. Brian Schottenheimer, the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and then Super Bowl champion Nick Sirianni. So weird to say because I'm not a big fan of Nick Sirianni, but it is what it is. Congrats. I'll give you your flowers. But what are we thinking about these two?
Brian Schottenheimer is an F. I don't think I have to go into too much details about that. I think he's by far the worst coach in the league.
Ooh, hot take.
I don't know if that's a hot take, but I'll take it. But if I think this could be a potential one and done year for Brian Schottenheimer. So and then kind of going into our next guy with Nick Sirianni, it's so weird because he's got the win, but the thing that really I just can't see it with him is he a product of the roster that Howie Roseman's built, and he's got some maturing issues because every time they win, he's jawing with fans, he's yapping and going at them. Like, I think you have to have some sort of maturity as the head coach, because you're the one that sets the example in that locker room. And even when they were winning last year, AJ Brown was still jawing about Sirianni, and Jalen Hurts, I think, has kind of done some things every now and then. So I think given that, I put him at like the very top of A tier because he does have the Super Bowl, but I think I could see him being kind of similar to Doug Peterson in a few years where he's gone, just because he does have a hard time maintaining that locker room. So when Hurts is there and getting paid, things could definitely fall apart.
Okay, so the end of A tier, you said?
I even say you could even flirt with the front of B tier, in my opinion.
Drew, where do you think? Where did you say?
I put him at the front of A tier just because I do respect that he has won the Super Bowl. We can't forget about that. But
I wouldn't put him there.
I could see the falling
I'd
off.
put him at the. I thought you meant the back part of A.
Well, like I said, he does have a Super Bowl, though. It is something.
Yeah, he does have a Super Bowl.
All right. Well,
did you know that? No, don't go through the rest of the roster. They're stuck where they are.
Well, actually, Jim Harbaugh's been to a Super Bowl.
All right.
So,
next.
Go to the next one.
Next, we have the AFC North. I'll just kind of group these guys together. We got Mike Tomlin, the longevity head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I almost said Jim Harbaugh. John Harbaugh of the Baltimore Ravens. Zach Taylor of the Cincinnati Colts. And then we got... What?
The Cincinnati Colts.
Did I really say the Colts?
Yes.
I thought he did that on purpose.
I am punch drunk right now. No, just kidding. The Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know why I said Colts. That's nothing resemble the Colts. And then we have Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. With Mike Tomlin, I would probably put him ahead of Nick Sirianni. Yeah, ahead of Nick Sirianni. He does have the Super Bowl win, helps him out a lot. Never had a losing record, but the thing that really has a hard time for me putting him up any higher than this is just
Higher.
have the he doesn't have that playoff success after Big Ben. So if he starts winning games after Big Ben, maybe we could talk about an S tier. But as of now, I'd put him at S tier.
Yeah,
End
no,
of A tier?
I agree with that. No, he said at the start of A tier.
Ahead of next year.
But as Drew couldn't even say his name right, it's Mike Tomlin. I don't even know what the hell Drew was trying to say, but it's Mike Tomlin. And yeah, I'd agree. He's probably one of the better head coaches in the league. He's obviously got that Super Bowl win. He's always been a consistent head coach. I mean, I know everyone makes the jokes about the Steelers always being a 500 team, but I mean, he finds a way to get the Steelers to the playoffs every year. So, I mean, he's got what, 17 winning seasons in a row? So I think that
Then never had a losing.
exactly. So Mike Tomlin could definitely be at the front of A tier, in my opinion. But now going on to John Harbaugh, I think he's another one that's either going to be an A tier or I don't think you put him in S tier, but I think he could be honestly right behind Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, for me, I do think John Harbaugh is a better coach than Tomlin, just because he he still has had that playoff success even after Joe Flacco. So for me, I would put John Harbaugh right at that very, very beginning of A tier.
I can get down with that.
Here.
All right. Zach Taylor?
And, the highlight of his career is him having a Super Bowl appearance and him having Joe Burrow as his quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say somewhere in the B tier. I mean, I don't think he's a better coach. Honestly, could be a hot take maybe. I know Bengals fans are crazy, but I don't think he's a better head coach than Dan Quinn.
Yeah, I can agree with that right now. I honestly would put him in the C tier. I think he's an average coach, just having the luxury of having Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins.
I think you could put him at the end of B tier.
But yeah,
just because he has that Super Bowl appearance.
I kind of like him at the end of B.
But I think, like I said, I just would I just said C tier just because I feel like he's on the brink of being fired. So, but I think by the end of the year, I think if the Bengals are still at like 9-8, I think he's for sure gone. I just think that they can't be settling for mediocrity when they have this offensive juggernaut on their roster. So, but yeah, that's fine.
All right, last four: Stefanski, Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, and Raheem Mostert.
I mean, let's not brush it off. Let's not.
Raheem Morris.
Dustin, it's Mike Tomlin.
All right, Kevin Stefanski.
No, hold on. Let's not even push it off anymore. Let's just go right to Andy Reid, front of S tier. No, we don't have to say anything. There's nothing to be said about it.
Drew, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you want to argue that? Then I'll argue it if you want to argue it.
I said that's fine.
Shut up.
I can't even move them.
Well,
it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. They're in the S tier.
No, they're not.
There you go.
No,
maybe McVay.
He won't move.
All right, okay. Dustin, restart the recording.
Okay. Next, Kevin Stefanski.
I like Stefanski a lot. Like, for me, I look at it like this. He's not winning right now. But he's been winning previously. The thing that's holding him back is just this Deshaun Watson trade. I can't fault Stefanski for that because they did make this ridiculous trade, which was horrific to give up that much and to pay him that much. I honestly like him more than some of these guys in the B tier. I would put him I would probably put him ahead of Mike Vrabel just because he does have more of that individual success, more than Vrabel does, in my opinion. But I don't know if he's better than D'Amico right now, just because D'Amico hasn't really had any sort of losing seasons yet, where Mike Vrabel has. So I would put Stefanski right, like sandwiched in between in that B tier.
Okay.
I'd put him at the. I mean, I don't know. Him and Dan Quinn are kind of on the same. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to put Stefanski over Sean Payton, just because Stefanski has 2 Coach of the Years, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I think I'd put as of right now, I'd put Stefanski the second of that B tier, even first, even at the end of A. I think that Stefanski is done.
He deserves better. We'll just say that.
He deserves better. If Stefanski was the head coach of like, I don't know, just one of the if Stefanski was the head
Like
coach,
the Bills or the Bengals.
Bill, but like the thing is McDermott's a good coach, but I was thinking more if he was the coach of the Commanders. I think if him and Dan Quinn swapped places, I think that we would be talking about Stefanski more.
All right, geriatric Pete Carroll onto the Raiders from the Seattle Seahawks.
I mean, his best years are probably behind him. I think. I don't
Bringing
think
a
he's
new
ever
vibe to the
gonna.
Raiders.
I don't think he's gonna sniff another. Honestly, is it even crazy to say that he doesn't even sniff another playoffs if he's gonna be with the Raiders?
Well,
I mean, he's playing in the hardest, probably one of the hardest divisions in football. He's playing with the team that just goes to Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and the Chargers are on fire. The Broncos are even coming around. The Raiders are easily the worst team in that division right now. So, I mean, it's not even crazy to say that he does not touch another playoff game.
yeah,
So, like I said, his best... No, shut up for a minute. I'm talking. I think his best years are behind him. Go ahead, Drew.
I was just gonna say, like, they were saying the same thing about Geno when he took over, and they were gonna be the worst team in the league, and you know that worked out for them, and they made the playoffs. So I mean, I like Pete Carroll. I just think you have to judge it based on his previous history because we don't know what the future holds. I would probably put him in the A tier, but like I said, they got the coach. They got he's got his guy in Geno. We'll see how things work out. But I would me personally, I put him in A tier.
I like
Don't
him in
disagree in the fact that like I don't know if it's going to be tough for him to make the playoffs in that division, but if it could be a nice little sneaky playoff team where maybe they get a 7 seed. I mean,
I could see it, but at the same time, I don't think so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right, last one for this episode. Raheem Morris of the Atlanta Falcons. Kind of a weird team again. Hopefully they can do a little better than they did last year. Kind of inconsistent. Pretty good team, though. Where do we want to put Raheem Morris? I like him to be.
It's so weird because, like, Raheem Morris, like, when Kirk was right and he was healthy, they were winning games. Like, they had the red carpet to the NFC South title, and when he got hurt and things started to fall off a little bit, Penix took over, and then when he took over, it was like the gauntlet of their schedule. I don't want to say he stinks, or I put him in F, but like maybe the D tier, I would say, just because he is only in his year 2. Maybe like the top D tier head coach could potentially move up, could potentially move down. It's all going to rely on what Penix can do. I think that's just their future is just going to depend on what Michael Penix does. So I would put him in that front of D tier.
I kind of almost like him in the middle of C.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of agreeing with Drew here. Sadly, I'd say either the front of D or I'd say the back of C. I don't think he's better than McDonald or freaking Murr.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll put him at the back of C then. We'll compromise.
Fine. Yeah.
All right.
I think just because he did find some success. They were kind of in the playoff picture till like the very end, but kind of got handed a bad stack when he was at Tampa. He clearly wasn't ready yet. So we'll see what happens in the coming years. But he's a guy that can fluctuate up or fluctuate down. It's just going to depend on what this Falcon team can do.
That's for sure. All right. With that said, in an hour we got that done. We got your tiers. So if you guys have any critiques, if you guys agree, disagree with any of that, let us know in the comments. And if you made it to the end of this video, we are giving away $1,000. So comment down below with the money sign emoji and you could probably win that. So we just want to make sure you guys stick around to the end of this episode. So with that said, make sure you guys do follow us on X or Twitter at 612 Vikings, and then on our podcast platforms as well, Spotify and Apple Music, or not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. I can't talk today. 612 Vikings for all of that, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Skol Vikes.